Welcome everyone to the 2023-24 NBA season preview presented by CSSN. I'm your host Reggie Sanderson, and we're live here at Studio M in Atlanta, ready to walk through each of the league's 33 teams, the key players from every squad, and the top 10 players headed into the season as ranked by CSSN correspondents. Along with me is in-studio analyst and NBA beat writer Toby Daniels. Toby, your initial thoughts on the season before we dive into the breakdown?
Reggie, this year signals one of the more interesting transition points in the NBA over the last 20 years. We have some of the best players in the world, like Murray Underwood and Lonnie Kane, changing teams the past two off-seasons, and I believe it's going to dramatically shift the landscape of the league.
With that, let's jump right into it. And we'll start with our release of the top 10 NBA players. Starting at number 1, we have Boston's Quinn Hollins.
Hollins' point production dipped in his first year with the Celtics, but he's still the most talented and versatile player in the game.
Number 2, Murray Underwood newly of the LA Clippers.
2 league MVPs for Murray with the Spurs, but declined his player option and signed with the Clippers, hoping to get a better shot at a title.
3, Lonnie Kane.
Coming off an NBA Finals win and a Finals MVP with the Suns, Lonnie opted out for a huge payday with the Raptors.
4, Travis Moss.
Averaged 23, 10, and 9 in his first season with Golden State last year, and already has 1 league MVP under his belt at the age of 26.
5, Kenneth Rollins, Indiana.
At age 34, Rollins is still ascending as a pro, being voted to both first-team All-NBA and first-team All-Defense last year.
6, Tony McDaniels.
McDaniels is another superstar that saw his production drop last year, but it's not because his skill set or athleticism is diminished. It's just that his team doesn't need him to do as much. The best center in the league, hands down, and only a couple of years removed from a championship and a Finals MVP.
7, Chip Cassell.
Shot below 40% from the field last season, but still nearly averaged a triple-double for the Bucks.
8, the Kings' Rudolph Banks.
In a league where superstars have been on the move in recent years, Rudolph is staying in Sacktown and has been the model of leadership and consistency for that franchise.
Number 9, Gary Livingston of the Rockets.
Of all the players in the top 10, Gary has made the biggest jump in his game within the past few years, cracking an All-NBA team for the first time last season.
And rounding out the top 10 is the Pacers' Karen Martin.
The Pacers are the only team with 2 players in the top 10. Karen was great last year, averaging 23, 8, and 4 on 53% shooting.
Now that we've gone through the top 10 players in the league, we take a look at the key contributors for each team, starting with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Philadelphia is led by the league's leading scorer last season, Edgar Lyons, who averaged 27 points per game. Darnell Blake also re-upped with the Sixers over the summer, signing a 5-year contract extension to stay with the squad.
Next, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Outside of Chip, Lawrence Harper is another go-to guy the Bucks have to help engineer offense. He averaged 17 points per game last season on 45% from the field and 35% from 3.
The Washington Bullets.
The Bullets signed guard Marion Waters this offseason after he declined his player option with the Magic. This now sets up a nice, young nucleus for Washington between him, center Jacob Irving, and Clint Pittman.
The Chicago Bulls.
The Bulls haven't made the playoffs since 2020 and were an abysmal 27-55 last year. Their ability to turn it around will begin and end with All-Star center Douglas Geiger, who averaged 22 and 11 in 2023.
On to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Cavaliers re-signed Dedrick Teague to a 5-year, $200 million deal in the offseason, keeping together their core of him, Travis Hardaway, and Carson Sharp.
For the Boston Celtics, who are you looking for to step up and support Quinn Hollins?
For the Celtics to build on their 56-26 record from last year and make a run at the finals, it'll be Hollins' frontcourt mates, Josh Quinn and Joel Wheeler, who will need to take their games to the next level in 2023-24.
We've already talked about how Murray Underwood signed with the Clippers for a major deal and a better chance at a championship. Who are the biggest X factors to help him get that title?
With Hugh Armstrong, Richard Callaway, and Carson Farrell, the Clippers have a legit Big Four, not Big Three, Big Four. They have a great shot at a championship this year if all the pieces come together.
Here are the Kentucky Colonels, who made an interesting decision during the draft to trade away Jamal Neal.
Yeah, interesting is an understatement. They are just a season removed from a championship where Jamal was the finals MVP and they went 60-22 last season. Seems like the Colonels' owners are more focused, in the short term, on the team's payroll.
The Memphis Grizzlies.
Casey Meyer leads the Grizzlies, coming off a 2022-23 campaign where he made second-team All-NBA and All-Defense. Casey had a good season last year, but I was struck by how much his scoring dropped from 2022 to 2023.
And what about the Atlanta Hawks?
I think the Atlanta Hawks made a lot of good moves this summer between trading for Jamal Neal and signing Derek Griffith away from the Magic. No true superstar, but they have a lot of really good players on this roster. In my opinion, this will propel them into the playoffs this season.
On to the Miami Heat.
I predict the Miami Heat to have another uphill climb this year. Their 4 and 5 positions are strong with Mac McDaniels and Lucas Cooper, but Mac is getting older at age 34, and the Heat's production from its perimeter positions leaves a lot to be desired.
The Charlotte Hornets.
You know, I'm thinking that Frederick Moore is going to take a leap this year. He averaged 16 points as a rookie, averaged 17 last year, and insider accounts suggest that he really worked on expanding his game in the offseason.
The Utah Jazz.
After spending his entire career with New Orleans and earning a championship and a finals MVP, the Pelicans renounced the rights to Doug Heikkinen, and he signed with the Jazz in the offseason. Doug is coming off a year where he averaged 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists.
The Sacramento Kings.
The Kings added to their depth by signing Corey Miller from Detroit and Ryan Collins away from Boston. This should help bolster the team's scoring.
Where do the Knicks stand this season, in your mind?
The Knicks were 30-52 last year, and I think they'll continue to struggle finding their footing. Last year's mid-season acquisition of Dion Castro should help them improve, slightly.
The LA Lakers.
Brooke McDaniels has ascended to the threshold of the Lakers' best player after he came over from Portland last season. It will be him and Pierre Cisse leading the way to try and get the Lakers back to the playoffs.
And here are the Orlando Magic, who lost future Hall of Famer Eugene Richardson in free agency to the Spurs.
Yeah, of all the NBA's teams, the Magic took the biggest gut punch over the summer. They're coming off a 68-14 record, fell a bit short of winning a championship, but had all the pieces to take several repeat cracks at it over the next few years. Losing Richardson will be huge for them, but they still have the reigning MVP in Leroy Erickson, who is expected to return from a dislocated patella in 6 weeks.
The Dallas Mavericks.
Kenneth Baldwin leads the charge for Dallas, averaging 18.5 points and 5 rebounds last year.
The finals runner-ups, the New Jersey Nets.
James Steele has been the Robin to Tony McDaniels' Batman for a number of years, and they'll need him to be even more effective this season if they want to make another run at the finals.
Now for the Denver Nuggets.
Cameron McLeod and Edwin Moore provide the offensive juice for the Nuggets, averaging 40 points per game in 2023 between the two.
The Indiana Pacers.
We talked about Kenneth Rollins and Karen Martin earlier. Another Pacer to be on the lookout for is Gabe Livingston, who averaged 15, 6, and 2 for the team last season.
The New Orleans Pelicans.
Lost Doug Heikkinen, but they still have pretty good depth on their roster, particularly in the front court, led by Frederick Felder and Diedrich McCaw.
And what are you tracking on the Detroit Pistons?
Though the Pistons are still in a period of rebuilding, they were able to lure away veteran star Stan Thorpe from the 76ers. Stan still has something left in the tank, averaging 14, 5, and 4 last year, and I think he'll be a great veteran presence for this young roster.
Rolling along with the Raptors.
Lonnie Kane signing with the Raptors is obviously well documented, but outside of Lonnie, the Raptors also have Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey didn't crack our NBA top 10, but he just barely missed the cut. Him and Lonnie get my vote for the best 1-2 punch this year.
The Houston Rockets.
The Rockets are one of the heavy favorites to win the title. In addition to Gabe Livingston, their team is stacked. I'm particularly intrigued by the third coming of the Twin Towers with 7-foot Cecil Childress and 6'10" Devin Hayward.
The Spirits of St. Louis.
3 words: Alton Aloysius Adkins. He opted not to re-sign with Dallas and is now a member of the Spirits. He's obviously a tremendous player right in his prime, and I think he can elevate this team to compete for a spot in the playoffs.
And the team that probably went through the most dramatic shifts this offseason, the San Antonio Spurs.
Murray Underwood out, and Eugene Richardson and Sebastian Nance are in. The biggest question for them is how are they going to shape their offense around two ball-dominant centers?
The Phoenix Suns.
The Suns signed Cecil Childress in free agency. Childress averaged 16 points and 9 rebounds for the Hawks last year.
The Seattle Supersonics.
Terry Chandler's first season in Seattle last year, at age 31, was probably the best statistical season of his career, averaging 20 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 7 assists. He'll be the Sonics' go-to guy in 2024.
Here are the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Jean Girbaud just needed his rookie season to prove that he's one of the best players in the league. The 2021 number 1 overall draft pick averaged an astonishing 26 points and 8 assists in his first season last year and led the Thunder to the playoffs with a 50-32 record.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Percy Haywood has gotten better each year since being drafted number 3 in 2020. His scoring has increased each season, and I expect him to continue that trend this year in support of Patrick Cotton.
The Portland Trail Blazers.
The Trailblazers lured veteran Garrett Cardinal away from the San Antonio Spurs. I think Cardinal will bring a lot of leadership to Portland's locker room and also will give them an offensive lift.
And finally, the Golden State Warriors.
If the Warriors are going to compete for a playoff spot, I think Sidney Webster is going to have to elevate his offensive game. When he shoots it, he has solid efficiency, but he needs to be more aggressive to help Travis Moss.
Well, that's going to just about do it for our season preview. Have a good night, and we'll see you at the tip-off next week.